Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back to another Wisdom Wednesday. If it's your first day watching a video on my channel, welcome. If not, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about a very well-known person. A lot of people, when they hear his name, they know about him or some of his quotes and sayings. So we're going to be looking at one of his quotes. The person we're looking at today is Confucius, and a lot of you are probably like, oh boy, that's a big task there. Confucius, his quotes and sayings and teachings have a lot of meaning for a lot of people. And there was a couple things I learned about him that I didn't know before. He was born during 551 BC and passed away roughly 479 BC. He was a Chinese teacher, editor, politician, and philosopher. I didn't know he was a politician, so that was very interesting. There was, when I was looking through the history of him, there was a time he was doing his political things, and one of the leaders ended up doing something that he didn't really agree with, and rather than just leaving immediately and exposing him for what the guy did, he waited till he created a much minor offense and then kind of took off with that, to make it look like this leader wasn't as bad as he was, because people make mistakes. And so he gave him, that out as like, look, I know that this was a one-time thing, I'm just going to let it go and go my separate way because I want to do something and not be under you anymore. So, I mean, the guy always thought about how well he could be around people. He was a very social person, but he was ethical and moral, and a lot of his teachings and sayings show that. There was one thing I was reading about where a fire had started and it burned down the stables, and his first response was anyone injured? He didn't even care about the horses, because the horses were property at the time. Back then, property like animals and horses and sheep and stables and stuff, those were property, they weren't people, and he cared more about what happened to the people than he did the property. So it really showed his character and who he was as a person, and you can see it throughout his teachings and his philosophy and all that. But the quote that we're going to dive into today, and I'm going to try to dissect it the best I can. Again, I'm not somebody who has majored in this, but I love to look at these quotes, I love to dissect them, try to apply them to our current lives and situations, because there is value and meaning in something that was said, 2,000-3,000 years ago. It still has implications and meaning today, because as humans evolve, technologically we evolve, and the other things that we improve on in our lives, at the core, we are still the same. And talking about being the same at the core, I was watching something on Facebook. It doesn't really pertain to this quote, but I thought it was interesting how it kind of ties in with us being humans. How we are the indoor generation, and how we talk about, or we spend 90% of our lives indoor. And it's funny, I'm talking about that as I'm filming this indoors, because I want to eventually start filming other places. I mean, this is my little space, but the point is we as a family try to go out into nature as much as possible. We try to get outside, and if you come across it, I'll try to find a link to the video, watch it. It's really interesting to learn about the indoor type behaviors we have now. But anyways, moving into the quote, segueing into being human. So the quote by Confucius is, there are 3 methods to gaining wisdom. The first is reflection, which is the highest. The second is limitation, which is the easiest. The third is experience, which is the bitterest. Now, I'm going to break this down into 3 sections, obviously. The first section is him talking about the first being reflection, and it's the highest. Now, what I feel this is saying is when you self-reflect or you reflect a situation or things that are happening, it is the highest because you gain the highest amount of wisdom and knowledge and insight from that, because you are learning about either yourself or another person or a situation, and you're gaining wisdom and knowledge to help you in your life as you progress. Now, what I mean by that is if something tragic happens to you, say a loved one dies, or and you reflect on how you feel about it, it may give you some wisdom of, hey, you know what? We're not going to be around forever. We need to cherish the people that are around us and spend time with them and enjoy the good moments with them. And that could be a real self-reflection on yourself, saying, hey, you know what? I don't do that enough. I need to take time to go see my family members, go see my grandma, or go see my dad or my mom or whatever it is. And I think that's what he means by it is the highest method to gain wisdom. Because when you reflect, you learn and you see, and it kind of puts things into perspective for you. So I totally agree with what he's saying there. Reflection is the highest. Now, the second one is limitation, which is the easiest. And what I believe he's saying here is limitation means, restrictions or the regulations of the law or something like that. You have a limitation on what you can do, what you can't do. So learning your limitations, learning not just your limitations, but also limitations of others and situations. This is a broad thing that all of these encompass. It's the easiest because you learn where basically the road stops, or where you can't just do anything more. So it's funny because this is probably the hardest one to try to convey, but it's supposed to be the easiest way to gain knowledge. And for me personally, I feel like I'm trying to tell it right, but it may not be coming out right. If you guys want, put in the comments below what you feel about all these. I would love to hear what you guys have to say. But moving on, it is really the easiest way, because once you hit a wall, you figure out where the road stops. You figure out where your limitation is. So the third and final way to gaining wisdom is experience, which is the bitterest. And what he's talking about here is your life experiences with people or things or situations. And sometimes they can be very bitter. Sometimes they can just really crush your spirit and bring you down. But at the end of it, you gain some wisdom and insight. It kind of ties in with the first one, with self-reflection, or even just if a loved one dies. So it's very powerful, but it's also bitter sometimes. The expression bittersweet sometimes happens. You win something at the cost of maybe breaking your leg or something. I don't. That's a very weird way to describe it. But if you think about it, say you win the lottery, but then you get in a car accident on the way to the place to cash in your ticket. That's bittersweet. You've won, but you've also now been in a car accident. So I'm sure there's a better example to explain bittersweet. But the point is what I'm trying to make is it's a situation that has some good and some bad to it. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's quote, what we dived into. Eventually what I'm going to do is I'm going to start moving away from quotes. I may revisit some here and there, but I kind of want to start going into another series of things, talking about Proverbs, the book in the Bible, Proverbs, and how some of those things can help us gain wisdom and knowledge to use in our everyday lives. I don't know when I'm going to start that series, but I'm just letting you guys know that that's coming up in case you're kind of getting tired of the quote things. But the point is I really like quotes. I've always liked using them. I've always liked dissecting them and trying to figure out the meaning to them. And I hope you guys enjoyed today. I hope you got something out of it. If you did, give it a like, a thumbs up, a share, whatever platform you're watching it on. If you know somebody who needs to hear something like this, you know, tag them in it, share it. But I mean, hey, I'm here for you guys. I'm here to help you guys gain some wisdom, gain some knowledge. And yeah, I like having you guys stop by. If you want to subscribe so you can get that notification, the bell notification of more videos coming out. Pretty much most of my subscribers probably already know the time that I'm going to send out my videos. So, but anyways, I want to thank you all for stopping by. I hope you have a wonderful day, and God bless.